History-making night as we begin the Women's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. But when we are acknowledging the past and celebrating the future, let's not forget about the present. This is NXT Graded. Beth Phoenix is back on commentary properly. She's not down the line anymore. She's sat next to Vic Joseph and Wade Barrett. They set off party poppers to celebrate. This is going to make a big difference to the output of NXT shows on commentary. You're not sort of compensating for somebody who's watching on a second delay like they were on some pay-per-view, so this is a good thing. It's a subtle good thing. We kick off with Dusty Cup action. It's Kushida and Leon Ruff facing Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory. And it starts off with some really high-paced action between Theory and Ruff. Kushida gets the tag, but a cheap shot from Theory allows Gargano to get in and turn the tide in the favour of the way. From here, we see Ruff get a hot tag, hits a beaut of a springboard to get into the match as well, which I was a big fan of. He gets distracted, however, by Gargano. This ends up him falling into a leaping torture rack bomb by Austin Theory. Another really nice move. That was nice, but for a near fall. Theory gets beaten down for the majority of this match. Manages to make the break through the legs of Theory for a hot tag, only for Gargano to knock Kushida off the apron before he can even get there. And this leads to Ruff fighting back from underneath, hitting a Brett's rope cutter to finally get the tag to Kushida, who just wipes everyone out. Gorgeous tornado DDT from off of the apron by Kushida as well. Theory saves Gargano from an armbar at one point, but this leads to the Way getting back in control. Here comes Leon Ruff to make the save, though. He wipes out Theory with a dive to the outside, and back in the ring, Kushida lands sort of a modified headlocked Northern Lights suplex for the 1, 2, 3. Surprise win for Leon Ruff and Kushida. I thought the Way would be the way they go, but it's not. Kushida and Ruff into the next round. B+ for this. Solid action of the tag team variety between everyone here. Do you know what? Leon Ruff is an excellent tag team wrestler. He's teamed up now with Damian Priest and now teamed up with Kushida. He's got good energy for a tag wrestler. Could be a way he goes down the line. We get a video highlighting Pete Dunne. He says that he and Finn Balor are cut from the same cloth, and whilst Finn Balor went away, Pete Dunne built the NXT UK brand. He's been sick of being told to get in line to face Balor, and says that Balor will be part of Pete Dunne's legacy. We are heading towards a collision between Pete Dunne and Finn Balor, and I'm 100% here for it. I reckon Pete Dunne could become NXT champion by the time 2021 is done. Putting that in there right now. Backstage, Malcolm Bivens is looking for a meeting with William Regal, but his client Tyler Rust has beaten him to it, and reveals that later on tonight Tyler Rust has a match with Bronson Reed, a chance to showcase himself. Malcolm Bivens refers to his client as a diamond in the rust. A big fan of that line. Big fan. Karrion Kross in action against Ashante the Adonis. Adonis doesn't get out of the blocks. He is thrown around the ring with Doomsday Saitos before hitting that running forearm for the 1, 2, 3. And just as he is about to head out of the ring, work done, here comes Desmond Troy, his tag partner in the Dusty Classic. And just for bants, Kross puts him in the Kross jacket for his trouble, and he's done. So that's the whole match. I'm giving it a C+. It was fine as a beatdown. I feel like Kross could be doing something a little bit meatier, but there is some rhyme for the reason here, in that this is a way of getting Desmond Troy and Ashante the Adonis out of the Dusty Cup. We find out later on, as a result of this attack, they've been wiped out of the tournament. Just felt a shame for the Adonis to be a victim of Karrion Kross in this way. There was like some real momentum behind him not too long ago, and just getting battered here, which was a shame. We get a promo video highlighting MSK, aka the Rascals, FYI. And it's great to do this. It gives a little bit of meat for the bones of MSK in NXT. We see that Wes Lee seems to be the more serious one. Nash Carter is the wisecracking jokester of the two. Loads of other NXT stars pop up in this video as well to put them over about how innovative they are in the ring, and they pledge to win the Dusty Classic. This was nice. This just gives them a bit of character other than here is a debuting team. We find out a bit of their personality, and I think in order to get across in NXT, there's so many great wrestlers in NXT. You've got to be a little bit more than just a great wrestler. So this was good stuff. Imperium take on Lucha House Party in Dusty Cup action next. Imperium controlling the flow of this one in the early stages, but a Hurricane Rana and an assisted shoulder splash puts Lucha House Party back in control. However, Fabian Aichner pretty quickly shuts down Grand Metalik once he gets going. Aichner counters a dive from outside from Dorado with a slam, and then they hit that double running baseball slide onto Metalik in the ring, and that's how they go to break. After the break, a springboard tornado DDT turns the tide in the favour of the Lucha House Party. We see a hot tag, Metalik running wild with a Hurricane Rana, and a beauty of a springboard moonsault as well. Really like that. Near falls come from a wheelbarrow DDT from Imperium and a dropkick sunset flip combo from the Lucha House Party. End of this match comes with Dorado being able to counter a European bomb with a facebuster. Metalik hits a Frankensteiner onto Barthel. Outside the ring goes Metalik with an Asai moonsault, and then back in the ring, Dorado lands a picture-perfect shooting star press for the surprise 1, 2, 3. I thought Imperium would march on in this one, but no, Lucha lads into the next round. After the match, Fabian Aichner and Marcel Barthel head up the ramp, only to be met as at the very top of the ramp by Alexander Wolf. Haven't seen him since NXT UK. And he stands on top of the ramp and he does the pose, arms behind the back, and they follow suit. What's that all about? Find out another time. Match was a B+, really solid stuff from both teams. It wasn't quite A territory, but lots to like in this match with these four. The Lucha House Party have been rolling on all brands, but particularly on NXT, I've noticed. Plus the appearance at the end by Wolf, I think this signals the return to the American NXT of Volta, possibly to pick up where he and Finn Balor left off pre-pandemic. We get a fight pit weigh-in, quite a simple setup this one. There's the scales, Ciampa weighs himself, Thatcher weighs himself, flashbulbs going off. Little fight between the two, Regal separates, says do it later. Simple setup for the fight pit, our main event tonight. Very, very fine. Back in the CWC, Beth Phoenix officially opens the Women's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, saying the Women's Revolution began right here in NXT. Images all along the CWC show those who came before, the likes of Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair, and Bayley, Alexa Bliss and Shayna Baszler, and says they're going to make history. The lights come up, and you have all the competitors of the Women's Dusty Tag Team Classic on the ramp. Baby faces on one side, heels on the other. Bill Watts will be delighted. Also amongst all the people here are the 3 new NXT signings that were revealed yesterday. You can find out more about them in the news video on the Cultaholic YouTube channel earlier on today. Ding. From there we go to our first match in the Dusty Cup. I quite like the aesthetic of all the teams at the very beginning on top of the ramp. I do quite enjoy that, and from there we bleed into the first match. It's Kayden Carter and Kacy Catanzaro taking on Toni Storm and Mercedes Martinez. Both teams have guaranteed victory in the Cup because everybody does. Storm outmaneuvering Kayden Carter quite early on in this one, works her over quite a bit to start with. Carter escapes the clutches of Martinez to get tagged to Catanzaro, who has a real hot streak until Martinez grabs her, slows her down, methodically wears her out. She attempts a tilt-a-whirl DDT, does Catanzaro, to try and get back into this one, but Mercedes Martinez deadlifts it into a power slam for a near fall. Catanzaro eventually gets out of the clutches of Mercedes Martinez when Martinez goes for an Avalanche Death Valley driver, and Catanzaro turns it into a Frankensteiner. Tags to Carter. Carter runs wild. We see Catanzaro take out Martinez with a twisting plancha to the outside. Looked lovely. As Toni Storm headbutts almost the teeth out of Kayden Carter's head in the ring. Toni starts to wear down on the leg of Kayden Carter. And as Mercedes Martinez is coming to, here's Io Shirai, who hoys Mercedes Martinez over the announce table. This distracts Toni Storm and allows Kayden Carter to get the advantage. Drop toe hold, looks for a leg lock to hold her in place. Tags Catanzaro, who hits a gorgeous reverse tilting back senton for the 1, 2, 3. Kacy Catanzaro and Kayden Carter qualify for the next round of the tournament. It was just a wonderful feel-good moment. Later on in the night, they interrupt an announcement by Mackenzie Mitchell, and they're just giddy with the fact they've made it through to the other side of the tournament. It was lovely to see. Giving this match a B, this was the best match I think Kayden Carter and Kacy Catanzaro have had in a long, long time, probably since their women's tag team title match against Sasha Banks and Bayley. This is I've been willing these guys to come on for so long now. They've teamed up so much. I really want the good stuff for them, and this was one of their better matches. So fair play, hats off. Real nice feel-good win to kick off the Women's Dusty Tag Team Classic. Finn Balor approaches William Regal backstage, and he says he wants to get to beat Pete Dunne by cutting off the limbs before severing the head. So basically he wants a match against Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan. And Regal says, well, you need to find yourself a tag team partner. To which Balor says, there are no friends, only Zool. He hasn't got any mates. So Regal says, keep your enemies closer. And they knowingly nod and wink at each other for a little while. Like that bit in The Simpsons where they're nodding back and forth at each other. Dun, 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 dun. It's a bit like that. So Finn Balor's got to go find himself a tag partner. Well, more on that in a little bit. Tyler Rust with Malcolm Bivens facing Bronson Reed next. Bronson Reed has himself a new gimmick. It's a stuffed lizard around his neck. It's adorable. I'm a fan. Before the match starts, Isaiah Swerve Scott has a word backstage with Bronson Reed. Tells him to not get in his business again. Obviously last week we saw Reed splitting up the fight between Jake Atlas and Swerve, and there's some tension between them now by the looks of things. Reed easily overpowers Rust early on. Rust takes a spill out to the ring a couple of times to gather his senses, with Bivens there cheering him on. The second time it happens, as he goes back into the ring, he grabs Reed's arm, drops it over the top rope, and then begins to work on the arm of Bronson Reed from there. However, Reed pushes through the pain and manages to fight back in this one, lands a chokeslam onto Tyler Rust, goes up top for something, but as he's up there, Tyler Rust is able to recover, hits a rope-assisted Samoan drop for a near fall, but Bronson pushes back, hits a splash, followed by a tsunami splash off the top for the 3. Rust is consoled by Bivens, who says next time. Big win for Reed. C+ for this. It was fine. Wasn't world changing. Got Reed over and his new lizard friend. During that match, we saw backstage Toni Storm and Io Shirai being separated by a whole bunch of referees. So we're building to a little something there. We're going to park that bus there. Finn Balor bursts into the Undisputed Era's locker room, saying that he's here for payback. He basically asks Kyle O'Reilly to be his tag partner, unless he's still sucking his food through a straw. A little bit of tension from the Era, but O'Reilly goes, yeah, right, I'll be your tag partner next week. And Balor's like, cool, see you next week. Stare at each other for ages. Tense moment between those two. Understandable. I like Balor getting O'Reilly as his tag partner. The whole keep your enemies close thing is a nice little touch. Legado del Fantasma make their way to the ring. Santos Escobar talks about what it means to be a champion. He says a real champion doesn't have to conquer a curse like Johnny Gargano did. He says a real champion doesn't have a glass jaw, making a nod at Balor. And he also says a real champion doesn't have all the pomp and circumstance and a mamacita, and even with all that, doesn't make a title defense like Karrion Kross. Doesn't name drop Karrion Kross, but we get it. He says that he backs up every single thing that he has said, and Santos Escobar says that Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde will win the Dusty Classic, and they'll all be champions together. This brings out Lucha House Party, their opponents in the next round, but they get beaten down quite quickly by Legado. Then here comes Kurt Stallion to turn the tide, who manages to send Santos et al. Packing. Wade Barrett on commentary as he sees Kurt Stallion head to the ring really highlights a big issue with NXT at the moment. Kurt Stallion charges to the ring and Barrett says, "Who's this?" That's Kurt Stallion. Technically the number 1 contender for the Cruiserweight Championship. He won a 5-way match on 205 Live before November to earn that. That's who he is. But not even Vic Joseph knows that, because Vic Joseph goes, oh, that's Kurt Stallion. He's a standout from 205 Live. And then Wade Barrett says, well, what's this got to do with him? Again, he won a Top Contenders match back in November. Santos Escobar talked about him in November. All forgotten. This is an issue. I've talked about this for a couple of weeks, and Barrett has pretty much has certified what I was saying needs to be addressed. You have a Cruiserweight Championship on NXT. You have a Cruiserweight division show in 205 Live, and there's no synergy here. There's no connection. Never do you hear on NXT about what happened on 205 Live. I don't think if I have heard it, it's a handful of times. And there should be more of that. If you're the champion of a division and you're not talking about the show where the division is contested, there's a real issue there. There's a real disconnect. Giving this whole bit a C+, I don't think there was any purpose to it other than to, I guess, put Kurt Stallion on TV, something you could have done in far more effective ways than this. It was fine. Some of the stuff he said was good. It was just, it highlighted to me a big issue and a disconnect between NXT and 205 Live. So we come to our main event. It's the Fight Pit. Timothy Thatcher versus Tommaso Ciampa. They actually start this match on top of the pit. Last time they were in it. This time they're starting on top of it. And it's a scrap for the first part of this match all around the top of the pit, with Ciampa taking the lead going into break. He hits a catapult which knocks Thatcher's neck into some of the rigging of the fight pit. When we come back from break, Thatcher's in control inside the pit with Ciampa recoiling from Thatcher wearing down, mainly on his arm and his hand at one point. Ciampa pushes back with a catapult into the side of the fight pit, but Thatcher just keeps on coming. He locks in a sleeper hold. Ciampa breaks the sleeper hold with a low blow, and in a rather creative spot, as Thatcher is buckled over the referee from the low blow, Ciampa hits a Willow's Bell. I like that a lot. He busts out a fairy tale ending shortly after this by banging Thatcher's head into the cage and then dropping it, but Thatcher able once again to climb up before the count of 10. The end of this match comes with Thatcher applying a sleeper to Ciampa, and Ciampa decides to try and walk up the cage to try and break it, but he accidentally puts his foot through a gap between the two cage walls. In doing so, he gets his leg trapped, and Ciampa, who is stuck now, is at the mercy of Thatcher, who kind of applies a modified stretch muffler with Ciampa's leg trapped in the steel. The surgically repaired leg of Ciampa in a terrible position, and Ciampa taps out. The moment that Ciampa taps, Thatcher lets go, celebrates his win. The end of the night happens with Timothy Thatcher staring at Ciampa, who is holding his leg and just staring back. Tension there, or respect, we couldn't tell. When the show ends, we get a WWE.com exclusive. I don't normally talk about these, but this one is important. After the match in the parking lot, Ciampa approaches Timothy Thatcher and says, "You had the chance to break my leg and you didn't. Why?" And Thatcher simply says, "Respect," and then walks off. And Ciampa shouts back and says, "Hey, I hear there's an opening in the Dusty Classic." To which Thatcher stares for a long time back and nods and leaves. So we may have a tag team out of this craziness, which is pretty cool. Giving the match an A, I thought it was a really hard-hitting main event, and it hit different to the first one. There was lots of things they did differently this time, which I think really helped the match along. I think Thatcher winning the way he did is the right answer. And if this leads to this unorthodox team of Ciampa and Thatcher, I'm all right with that. That's a pretty cool team. Overall this week, I'm giving NXT a B. There was enough good stuff in there, I think, this week to warrant it getting a B and rounding about there. The Dusty Cup stuff has been really strong. Not great, but very, 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 very good. The main event was sublime. And there was just a couple of things in there that concern me slightly. I think the way that the Adonis was sort of brushed to one side in the way that he was. I think you could have done that with somebody else, but then I guess there's a story to tell. I don't know. I thought that the inadvertent burial of 205 Live shows a bit of an issue within NXT there as well, but there was enough good stuff in there. Some surprise wins in the tournament that kept me guessing, which I was really excited about. And then next week we've got a Cruiserweight title match. Kurt Stallion, who's he? Taking on Santos Escobar. And then we've got a unique Strange Bedfellows tag match to look forward to as well. So enough good stuff to come out of this show, I reckon. Stay safe. Love you, bye.